It's your weekly breakaway for fun conversations on pro cycling and so much more. Join us as we go beyond the slipstream. I'm Matt Harper, and together with my brother Justin, we'll do deep-ish dives on bike races, movies, bands, and all manner of shiny pop cultural objects. Oh, and did I mention bike races? We're kind of obsessed. Allez!
Hello and welcome to Beyond the Slipstream. I'm Justin and this is my brother Matt. Today's show will be dedicated in its entirety to a preview of the upcoming 2025 Men's Tour de France, which begins tomorrow, July 5th, with a stage for the sprinters. We'll be taking an approach in this episode of explaining how the race works for the novice or first-time viewer, because understanding the finer points of this magnificent contest increase a viewer's enjoyment exponentially. In our first segment, we're going to focus on the sprinters in the green jersey contest within the contest. Segment 2 will be devoted to the stage hunter, those riders who target one or two specific stages of the race that suit their specific strengths and talents and then go all in for the win. Finally, we'll dedicate segment 3 to the most important contest within the contests of all, the general classification, the winner of which takes home the iconic maillot jaune, the yellow jersey of the Tour de France. And as always, we'll finish out with a cobbled ride down the Champs-Élysées in the broom wagon. Allez. The 2025 Tour de France will see the Pro Peloton's top sprinters go head-to-head on the world's biggest stage. This year's big three so far will all be on hand. Soudal Quickstep's Tim Merlier with 10 wins so far this season, Alpecin Dekenic's Jasper Philipsen with a mere 2 wins, and Jonathan Milan of Little Trek with 7 wins. In addition, last year's Tour de France green jersey winner Biniam Girmay of Intermarché Wanty will be mounting a title defense despite being winless in 2025 thus far. The green jersey is the top prize for the sprinting classification in the larger race, a points-based contest where success is measured by consistency in high placings on stages with sprint finishes. The recently surging Dylan Groenewegen of Jayco Alula will also be at the race this year, a man who is no stranger to winning sprints at the Tour, with a total of 6 career stage wins, including 1 last year. And Philipsen sprinting teammate Caden Groves will also be at the Tour, which sets up a bit of a tricky situation for the Alpecin squad, because while logic and a comparison of Palmares would say that Groves should be riding in support of Philipsen as a lead-out man, Groves has had arguably as good a season as Philipsen. Some might say even better. After all, Groves has already won a Grand Tour stage this year, Stage 6, the dreaded Napoli stage of the Giro d'Italia. And let's not forget that there's another guy you may have heard of on that team who has also proven to be quite handy in small group sprints from time to time. Matt, whatever is Alpecin to do?
That is a good question. What is Alpecin to do? I mean, what I do like about this Alpecin squad, I like how this is a team that has no GC aspirations in this race. And this is one of the cool things about the Tour de France is that because of these contests within the contests, as we called them in the intro, um, different teams can come to this race with entirely different agendas and not really have to worry about them, worry about certain teams because those teams are not after the agenda that they're after. So the question is Alpecin's focus a green jersey, or is Alpecin's focus a bunch of stage wins across a couple of different riders, or what? What is Alpecin's focus here?
I have to imagine, I mean, you have one of the best lead-out men in the sport in Matthew Van Der Poel being able to, pull this either one, of 2 very, very good sprinters, along and be able to win. I mean, and if it's a simple shotgun approach of, we're going to throw as much of it at the wall as we can. And I mean, there's no reason with a Vanderpool Groves, Phillipson lead out that they can't, beat anybody that's out there. I will say, I still think that Little Trek and Jonathan Milan uh, have the best lead out train, in the pro peloton right now. So
Mhm.
I, you know, and the wild card here is Tim Merlier, because I personally feel that, Tim Merlier, who will be, in the European national champions jersey and easily picked out, he's your front runner in any on any sprint stage if he's in the mix. Period. Full stop. I don't think there's anybody that is at that I feel like he is S tier, and you can put Phillipson and probably Groves and Jonathan Milan on the A tier, and then I'm probably putting Beniam outside of the hillier finishes. I'm probably putting him definitely another level down after that. That's my take.
Yeah. Well, I mean, back on the Alpecin thing, I mean, it's I don't know if Vanderpool is content to go after a couple of stages himself, lead out Phillipson on a couple of other stages, maybe lead out Groves on a stage or two, depending on what the profile is like. Um, I think there is a reality where all three of those guys can go that race and get something out of it by working together as a
Yes.
squad. And I think that, Caden Groves is sort of the low man on that totem pole, but Caden Groves is no slouch. Like Caden Groves can reasonably step up with those two guys and say, I want my piece of the pie too. You know what? I'll go all in, but you guys got to go in. You got to go in for me on at least one stage here. Whatever the best stage is that suits me the best, you guys got to go in for me on that. Because let's face it, this guy's won plenty of Grand Tour stages. This guy's won big races. Has he beaten the biggest guys on the biggest days? No. He hasn't had a lot of opportunities to do that in his career. I mean, he hasn't been sent to the Tour de France very often, but um, I think his Palmares do warrant at least him getting a shot at something as well in this race. So they could make something like that happen. But the elephant in the room is Tim Merlier because this guy is set to steamroll over every one of those guys. At least when we're talking about the flat, just like most conventional, straightforward sprints. I will admit that I don't know the parcours of every single stage well enough to really drill down into that. But um, I think on the really flat, you know, standard bunch sprint situations, Tim Merlier is going to be really hard to beat.
Now, do we put stock in history? All right. So Phillipson, clearly the leader in the clubhouse as far as stage wins are concerned among this group. All right. He is a guy that has been there. He's won on the Champs. This guy knows how to win Tour de France stages. All right. He is very, very good at it.
Wait, who are we talking about?
Jasper, the
Yeah.
disaster, who a few years ago hadn't been able to pull it out, but he's had a tremendous run the last few years.
Wait, he won on the Champs Elysees?
Yeah, he beat Wout Van Aert
When? 20
in
20.
the first year that I pretty much was into cycling.
Hmm.
Check it.
Okay. Anyway,
I don't remember the exact year, but absolutely.
anyways, carry on.
Anyways, I mean, he does say he has nine stage wins. Um. Anyway, does that does his experience play into it, or is it more that Tim Merlier is just in rare form, that he seems to win almost every race that he's entered this year? does that does that you know play into it? You know what I mean? does
It's
his experience give with? By the way, if they decide to ride for Phillipson and you have Matthew Vanderpool and Caden Groves as your lead out team, all right, like that's some serious
that's so
shit.
formidable. Yeah, that's massive amounts of
Yeah.
firepower. So and I really feel like that's the thing. Phillipson is going to need that if they want to take a win. So if I'm the Alpecin DS and I'm looking at a sprint stage and it's a flat sprint stage, I'm like, well, Jasper Philipsen is our fastest flat sprinter, but right now, in a heads up, just mano a mano against Tim Merlier, he's not going to beat Merlier. So, how can we utilize the weapons that we have to do that? And it just means an all out balls to the wall lead out from Vanderpool and Groves.
I mean,
Two guys who are great sprinters within their own rights. And I mean, I also think Vanderbilt more so for Vanderpool, but both of them really Vanderpool and Groves have both proven themselves in a lead out capacity as well. So that
I
can
agree.
be very good. On the other side of that, Merlier's got Bert Van Leeuwenberg, Pascal Einhorn, and Max Schachman. I don't know how much participation Remco Evenepoel is going to have in a lead out for Tim Merlier. Remco Evenepoel is trying to get on the podium and is not
He
going to be
brought
wanting to mixing it up in bunch sprints. So he's got Catano, Ilan von Wilder, and or excuse me, yeah, Catano, Ilan von Wilder, and Pari Pantra. Um,
yeah,
on the mountain
and
side of things, and I don't think those guys are going to be mixing. I think there's going to be the three mountain guy or the four mountain guys, and there's the four sprint guys.
he
It's almost
wanted
like
he
they have too
wanted
many teams.
his only request. I'm pretty sure was Bert Van Langberg. Like, I'm pretty sure that that was like his like this. It's me and it's him and
Merliers,
yes.
yeah.
That was like I know that that was one of the big asks for him. So, um, I don't know, dude. Like we'll get into it in the GC thing. I already, you know how I feel. Like I've already said it how I feel about Remco at this point. Here's a wild card thing about the green jersey for us to kind of keep an eye on. The tour itself, as far as the points are concerned, have been slightly neutered for the sprinters. And there is a solid chance that if Pogacar runs away with the race, that Pogacar could end up in the green jersey. It is entirely possible that the sprinters end up being edged out by the GC riders for green jersey points because of the way that they have added points for like stages that they don't typically have a lot of points for as far as the green jerseys
Right,
are
for
concerned.
sprinters and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's definitely a possibility, and Pogacar is such a fighter. I mean, that's honestly like as lame as I kind of think that is on the one hand, there's also something I just want to see Tadej Pogacar in a green jersey. Like
Just
I just want to have that image in my brain pan. You know what I mean? I've seen him in yellow, I've seen him in
the
white.
image of the green, the yellow, and the mountains, because the very likelihood is that he ends up taking the mountains too. So who knows? That'll be interesting. Enough.
Well, one of those years that he won, he literally like he won mountains, youth, and yellow
Yes.
one year. So like on the podium, it was just like him and the sprinter guy. I can't remember who won the sprinter that year. Maybe it was Jasper Philipsen.
No, I don't think it was. Oh, you know what? Maybe it was. You know
And
what?
then
Maybe that.
there was like two mannequins
Yeah.
on stage with the other two jerseys that he won.
Um. Okay. So outside of those core guys who we know will be mixing it up, two people that I would like to see that I put down in the notes make a run at a Tour de France stage win. Arnaud Delis. All right. I mean, here's a guy that I think really, really, really is a possibility at a stage win. I don't know it's against these guys, but crazy things happen in these big races, and every once in a while, you know, somebody can slip through. And I'm thinking him and another one that a guy that just won a couple weeks ago, Jake Stewart. who I think has a really, really, really good form. And again, we talk about the points things coming into play. Obviously, Jake Stewart being on Picnic Post now, that could be uh, a big spot for them to grab some points, some very much needed UCI points. So definitely a lot to watch.
It would definitely be cool to see a Jake Stewart win there, just for the whole Picnic Post thing. And that guy was really cool. I enjoyed his interview and how cheeky he was when they were asking him about that new bike.
Hmm.
That was
Hmm.
him that was on that crazy new frame. I was going to take issue with you saying like Arno Delia. You were like, because at first you were like, yeah, I could definitely see that guy. And I was about to be like, why? What exactly makes you think that, that gives you the thought that you would be able to, that you'd be seeing Arno Delis winning a Tour de front stage? Because that guy has just been diminishing returns. I got to be honest. It's like he won a couple of big sort of lesser classics here and there. Um, he won the Belgian national championship and was in that jersey for a year, but it's just all talk with that guy. Like he just never seems to close the deal. So I don't know. I think Arnaud Delis is headed to be a footnote in cycling history. Um, but then you were like, because anything could happen, and then I'm like, oh, okay, well then, yeah, that's why Arnaud
I
Delis
mean, look,
might
look. I mean,
stage
if
because
you're
you got
asking,
anything, I guess, can it's a Arnaud Delis winning a stage. I'm gonna be straight with you. It's about as likely as Arnaud Demar winning a stage because he's going to be at this one too. And it's so funny. It's so funny because I'm telling you, there was a couple of years ago, 2, 3 years ago, Arnaud Demar was the guy to beat. It's like these guys have their window, and right now Tim Merlier is in that window. Jasper Philipsen was in that window like a year ago. Arnaud Demar had it for a while. I don't really think Arnaud Delis has ever had it, not at the top level, and I
so
don't think he ever will. Dylan Groenewegen definitely had that, and I mean, you could even make the case that Biniam Girmay had it. He just had it for like a week and a half
all right,
in one
all
Tour de
right, all
France.
right, all right. So other than because Biniam will always pull for Biniam, okay. Out of Milan, Merlier, and Philipsen, all right. If it's a 3 on sprint for the three of them, who are you pulling for? Who do you want to see win?
Who do I want to see out of those three?
Yes,
Milan, Merlier, and Philipsen.
yes.
I guess Johnny Milan. Got to
I
be
do
Milan.
you know what this? You know what the sad thing is? I'm actually like rooting for Jasper the Disaster.
The disaster. He's been out in the woods for long enough, in your opinion.
I don't know, man. The guy, he finds a way to win in France, man. Like this guy knows how to win in this race, and if he is peaking right now, which we all know, look, if you've been watching cycling for a good bit of time, all right, and you start to understand that the way that these guys train is to peak at certain times, and I do not doubt that he is built to peak right now. And if he comes in on form, this guy knows how to win these races. If he gets a crazy lead out from the two people that could technically give him that crazy lead out, I'm saying that he has got a damn good chance at winning sprints, even against the seemingly unstoppable 10 wins already this year, Tim Merlier.
Yeah, I would agree. And let's not forget, last year, I feel like he kind of gets forgotten in the Tour de France last year because number one, he didn't win the green jersey. Number two, Biniam Girmay had 3 wins, and that's all anybody wanted to talk about when it came to sprinting. But if you'll recall, this is how the green jersey contest and the sprinting played out in the Tour last year. Girmay gets 3 wins in like the first week and gets just an absolute like stranglehold on the green jersey. And Philipsen is like struggling all over the place. He's like thereabouts. He's like third place, fourth place, something like that. And then somewhere in there, Groenewegen gets a win, but then Philipsen gets a win. And then like 4 or 5 days later, Philipsen gets another win. And then he gets one more win. He ended up getting 3 wins. So he had as many as Girmay had last year, but he didn't quite get there with the points. And that's literally a matter of Germay got, two third places where Phillipson got two fourth places, something like that.
Right,
It's as
and
small
well,
as
and he
something
was
like that.
also, they were mopping up intermediate sprint points too. So, you
Right.
know, and playing defense on intermediate sprints as well.
So
So,
yes, I think there is a reality in which Jasper Philipsen, where that team comes together for him, his form is at the right spot that it needs to be at. Maybe Merlier's lead out is not as strong. I mean, we did see in the Dauphiné that one stage where Merlier just was grossly out of position. And Quickstep is a team that when we get into the GC talk, they have left Remco Evenepoel grossly out of position on occasion, especially in that very same race, the Dauphiné. Remco was not happy. He was very frustrated after that race, and a lot of it had to do with like the positioning that team is putting him in. Part of that's on him and his leadership, but I would not say that is a team that is well known, at least in the past, in recent months, for their positioning prowess.
yeah,
Um,
no, I'll agree.
so that's another consideration.
Alrighty.
So
Well, on that note, we will leave the green jersey behind, and we will move on to the stage hunters in our next segment. We'll be right back. One of the best parts of Grand Tour stage racing is that on several stages every year, we get unexpected, unconventional, and sometimes totally unforeseen stage winners. We call these unlikely one day assassins stage hunters. In the 2025 Tour de France, we'll have opportunities aplenty for these under the radar riders. Often, these types of stage victories come as a result of breakaway group success, and we've seen in recent years an uptick in the ability of breakaway groups to stay away on Grand Tour stages. Multiple stage winning breakaway specialists, such as Magnus Cort Nielsen, Matty Mahoric, Wout van Aert, and Julian Alaphilippe, will all be on hand this year, and they'll all be hungry. We're just as likely, however, to see some up and coming riders populating breakaway groups this year. Names such as Nielsen Pallas, Ben Healy, Santiago Boitrago, and Oscar Only. These are younger guys who have seemed this season to be just on the verge of a big breakaway into the victory in a Grand Tour level. And that's just a small sampling of potential riders that could steal career making wins this year in the biggest race of all. Matt, who is someone I haven't named in this intro that you've got your eye on for a big stage win?
you don't know who it is?
I really don't.
Oh man,
Really?
the American Eagle, Quinn Simmons, baby.
That's, ooh, God. Yeah, that'll be a
Quinn.
big one.
Quinn is peaking. Quinn has two wins on these exact kind of breakaway stages. Quinn Simmons for the stage win this year. I
Especially
think
coming off of a very good Tour de Suisse where he grabbed a stage victory. He's got the American Champions jersey. You are absolutely correct. His form is on point, and he is, probably one of. He might be. I don't know. It's hard to say that Nielsen Pallas isn't the best American rider right now, but I would make an argument that this year he's definitely number two. He is on great form, and he came
I don't
through
know.
this.
Matteo Jorgensen won Paris-Nice.
This is true. This is true. I don't know. Like,
Wait, wait. Here's the thing though, with Quinn, he's on a great team. The vibes on the Trek team are
I
the
was just
best in
gonna
the
go there.
Peloton.
I was
Um,
just. It seems like
and
he's come through this rough patch that he had over the last 2 years, and has really like let go, and he's riding loose. And I could see it. And again, look, I get it. You're right. Mateo is a great rider, but Mateo's got his work cut out for him in this tour. All right, he's on a different mission. So right now, all right, the Americans to watch are Nielsen Palace and Quinn Simmons.
one thing feels almost certain and that is that we will get some kind of an American stage win at the Tour de France this year.
Well, also don't forget that Nielsen Palace held uh, the polka dot jersey for like a week and a half or something, or 2 weeks,
And he is on a
a
much
couple of
higher
years ago.
level right now than he was when he held that polka dot jersey.
Yeah.
Much higher level.
I
So
well, I mean, he had that ridiculous sprint where he beat Wout earlier this year. Um, he just had a win like 2 or 3 weeks ago, right? Like, am I right?
no,
Like
he had two.
yeah, on
He's had
the
like three
one where
wins
he
this year.
yeah where he had the long breakaway just like 2 weeks ago.
Mhm.
Um, outside of the Americans, we talked a lot about Jasper Phillips in last segment. Um, I think Matthew Vanderpool too is somebody that I could see pulling. I could see him being very hungry for a stage win of his own. He has only one at this point, which shocked me when I was doing my research that he has only ever won one stage in the Tour de France. So I could very easily see him going after something, and everybody's favorite, Wout Van Forth. I just his form has been so good, and we've talked at length on the podcast about him. This is the type of race that really suits Wout Van Aert the best. Not the classics. He is much more of a, you know, 3 week racer, and he is a absolute wild card. Look how great he did in the Vuelta last year before he ended up injured out. He would have won the green jersey in the Vuelta.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very much looking forward to the sort of like comparison of Van Aert and Van der Poel in this race because, as we've been discussing so much, we've kind of made a distinction between the type of riders that each of these guys are, and for a long time, everybody wanted to throw them into the exact same basket, and we sort of made a distinction that like, nah, Van der Poel is more of like a spring classics kind of guy, and Van Aert is more of like a Grand Tours kind of a guy, and that's just facts, and getting to watch these guys and what they do over the next 3 weeks of this race uh, is going to lend a lot of data into our theorizing on this particular subject, and it'll be very interesting to see if Van Aert is able to really rise to the occasion here and be the Grand Tour rider that we are sort of of saying he is, and how that will fare against what Vanderpool can come up with here. Because as you said, Vanderpool has only got one. It seems surprising almost that Vanderpool has only won one stage of the Tour de France. But that just speaks to what we're saying about this whole thing. So is
Now,
Vanderpool content to come and just work as a helper this entire time, just to help Caden and to help Jasper? Like
no, I
maybe,
will.
but
I
I
assume he'll be targeting a stage or two for himself, and at that, the other part of that is that you had said earlier in the first segment that Alpecin is here, with a very different agenda than other teams, and it's very, it can be a very focused agenda. Most likely they're looking at it as a series of 1 day races, and the other days are just days they've got to get through. You know what I mean? And they're probably going to give the minimum effort to be able to get through with, as much left in the tank as possible, and just get through get through the high mountains when they have to do it, to get them over to these 1 day, events essentially for them where they're going to target either sprints. And I'm telling you, I can see him being in a breakaway, and trying to solo out a stage win somewhere where the parkour suits him, where it's just that right combination of flats and a little bit of climbs to be able to drop people, where he can shine. Nothing too hilly, but that kind of intermediate, not a mountain stage, or maybe almost like a light mountain stage where that might suit him, where he can you know beat people out front, get on a good cadence, and attack these descents correctly, and be able to somehow pull out a stage win. And especially if he gets in a in a breakaway with a Quinn Simmons and a Nielsen Palace, and some of these other guys that can absolutely stay away, like dude, like he could easily pull a stage out, no problem. And if he gets a stage, I think more. That bodes even more well for Phillipson if he gets, especially like if he would like pull a stage win in the first 10 days of this race before the. I think they do 9 race days or 10 race days before the rest day. If he somehow comes out of there with a stage win, like he's going to be all about helping Jasper get a win. You know what I mean? He's going to be all about those strong leadouts because the headspace will be great for him. So he's a wild card.
I will say I cannot wait to see how it plays out with that team, and that's just one team, but like the team dynamics on that team are going to be absolutely
Absolutely.
fascinating. That is for
Um,
sure.
so I another one that I would really like to see get a stage win is Filippo Ganna. I think Ineos has not confirmed their team. They're like the only one as of this recording that is not confirmed. Who's going to the tour, and I think that's partly because G had the wreck in the race, a week ago. So, however, there is, obviously time trials in the Tour de France, and he's one of the best. And I would absolutely love to see him be, because he's a guy that can, if it's a hilly time trial, that could absolutely has the ability to be able to win because he has got such a massive engine. He's so big. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's got to go up against Almeida and Pogacar and Evenepoel. These are but if on the right day, he is as good as them in a time trial, if not better. So I would love to see Filippo Ganna somehow pull out a stage win. He could also do a Matthew Vanderpool and end up in a breakaway too, because who knows what's going to be going on with that team. You know what I mean? Who knows where their focus is going to be? But you could see him in
Yeah.
a breakaway at some point as well.
Well, I think really the only contest when it comes to TTs in this Tour de France is Remco Evenepoel and Filippo Ganna. Maybe sprinkle in a little Pogacar or Vingegaard. I mean,
Almeida too, man. Come on.
yeah, maybe. Um, but I think that Evenepoel is really, really, really going to be. He's going to be so focused on these time trials because these are the only places where he can guarantee putting time into Pogacar and Vingegaard. And so I think for that reason, Ghana is really going to have his work cut out for him in winning one of these
Oh,
TT
for sure,
against Evan
for
Paul.
sure. Um,
So I'd like to see it though. I'd like to see. I'd like to see him get a Tour de France stage win. Has he won? Has he ever had any Tour de France stage wins?
nope, no Tour de France wins. All right, so we've talked about Nielsen, and we got Ben Healy will be here. He is one to watch, especially on the Climbier, the Climbier like mid-range stages. All right, Ben Healy is definitely a name to keep your eye out for. Matty Mahoric. All right, I've, not seen a lot of him, recently, but he is the road captain at Bahrain Victorious, and he's a three-time stage winner in the Tour de France. So he is 100%, especially in a breakaway group, somebody that can make it happen. He knows how to win at this race. I'm sure that I'm guessing you would love to see him win because I mean, God, he is just the best interviews.
Yeah, we love him. Perhaps he and Buitargo can put something together. If both of them are out of GC contention, Buitargo is probably the GC guy for that team.
Of course.
Um, so Alaphilippe we have on this list.
Ooh.
I I would adore seeing Alaphilippe win something. He just really seems like he's sort of in the downward end of his career. Yeah, at the same time, he won a stage of the Giro last year. Let's not forget. So he is still capable. I think if he is to win a stage in the Tour de France or any Grand Tour, really, it's going to take like some kind of something like that Giro win, something really wily, a long range attack. Some kind of not some kind of rare situation.
It's got to
That
be,
can
and I feel like with him, it's got to be on the day. You know what I mean? He's got the legs. His form's just ridiculous. He feels really good, and you're right. He gets some kind of like, squirrely move. It gets out on a solo or in a 2 or 3 man group, and somehow is able to like take it the whole way. But I feel like that's the big thing with him recently is like anytime I ever see him make a move, it just never sticks. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and he's never gonna win like a 4 up sprint, you know what I mean?
No,
Like a
God
4 or
no.
5 up sprint, like, so yeah.
But I could see him taking a stage if it's like him and another guy, or him and maybe 2 other guys that have gone on a long range breakaway. If he's smart about his energy, I mean, I definitely, depending on who it is, I could see him being able to pull something like
Well,
that out.
the way he did it in the Giro last year was he got away with one guy who he stronger than, but that was a very hungry guy because he was, like, from one of those, like, 2nd tier teams, and, the guy was, like, from Pulte or something like that,
Right, right, right.
and so he knew that he would be able to get a lot of work out of this guy that might be able to get him far enough ahead that he can finish it up on his own. He needs some kinda situation like that. I don't know, but I'd love to see it, that's for sure, and, of course, down there at the bottom of your list, wouldn't we love to see Victor Campenaerts grab another stage win?
Well, he will definitely be. We will be talking about him and his team at Visma in the next segment, I'm sure. Um, I would love to see him win. I feel like that is the exact, you know, uh, kind of guy that I would love to see win a stage, especially now. Although it's gonna be really interesting to see what they do. And again,
Breakaway specialist, though, that's he's the quintessential kind of guy for these kind of stages for breakaways and stuff like that.
I also think Ivan Romeo, man. I'm definitely he literally just won, and I could see him being able to pull out a stage, and get his first, really, really, really big ass win. So, on that note, we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk about the big show. So we'll be talking GC contenders next. We'll be right back.
Don't miss the Team Bus, our weekly companion podcast to the main Beyond the Slipstream show. Our domestique, if you will, dropping every Wednesday in your usual podcast feed.
The Maillot Jaune, the iconic yellow jersey of the Tour de France, is one of the most recognizable pieces of athletic clothing in all of professional sports. It's awarded each year to the overall winner of the race, the man who completes all 21 stages with the fastest cumulative time. I'm going to restart that. Some of my fucking teeth. Sorry. The Maillot Jaune, the iconic yellow jersey of the Tour de France, is one of the most recognizable pieces of athletic clothing in all of professional sports. It's awarded each year to the overall winner of the race, the man who completes all 21 stages with the fastest cumulative time. This contest within the larger race is called the General Classification, or GC for short, and a GC win here cements a rider's name in the highest echelons of cycling history forever. The top prize has gone to one of 2 men every year for the past half-decade, with the emergent GOAT of men's professional cycling, Tadej Pogačar of UAE Team Emirates, winning in 2020, 2021, and 2024, and Jonas Vingegaard of Team Visma Lease Bike, winning in 2022 and 2023. Both of these men will be on hand this year, and for many cycling fans, we're finally getting to see these two battle it out on what appears to be an even playing field. This is because last year, Vingegaard gravely injured himself in the early part of the spring season in the infamous crash in the Tour of the Basque Country that left several of the peloton's top riders injured, including GC specialists Primož Roglič and Remco Evenepoel. Vingegaard was by far the most badly injured in the crash, and most fans had to concede that in the Tour de France just a few months later, Jonas could be forgiven for not being at top of his form. Pogačar won handily, just as he had 2 months earlier in the Giro d'Italia. But this year, save for a few speed bumps, Vingegaard's spring season has been uneventful, and he must be assumed to be coming into top form, and he'll need it, because Tadej Pogačar, despite winning 2 Grand Tours last year, has never looked as good as he has this year. Matt, if Pog is to be beaten, how can it be done, and who can do it?
That is the $64,000 question this year. I mean, I think the answer to who is Jonas Vingegaard. The how gets a bit more complicated. I don't know that the team is going to be the factor. I think that, as has been the case many times over the past several years, that these two guys have been battling it out with each other. At the end of the day, it comes down to Jonas versus Tade at the top of a big tall mountain with a couple more kilometers to go, and they're both going to be there. You know what I mean? They're both going to be there, come what may. And minutes can be gained and lost at the tops of those big tall mountains. So I really just think a lot of it is going to come down to Jonas's form. The Jonas has won the Tours de France that Jonas has won. He has won on the highest, tallest mountains, and with some strong TT work. And his performance in the Dauphiné suggests that his TT is pretty dialed in. He came second behind Remco Evenepoel in that TT, and he beat Tadej Pogačar. Now, a lot of cycling commentators out there think that Tadej's TT in the Dauphiné was somewhat of an anomaly, and that you can kind of throw that out and not put too much stock in it. But if Jonas is to win, he's got to take seconds on that time trial, and if he's able to take seconds on the time trial, that would seem to suggest that he has the kind of form that he will be essential for him to possess if he's going to beat Tadej in the highest mountain. He's going to have to find a minute here and a minute there when we get to the very tops of these mountains. And it really seems like Pogačar is not going to be giving up on the tops of mountains.
So
we'll see.
So I'm gonna take a different take on it. In both cases, both of these riders have teams that are strictly built to help them win. All right. They both have amazing climbers in their own rights that are there to back them up. All right. They both have multiple riders that could be GC main men on a couple of teams. All right. Vingegaard, has 2 Grand Tour winners. All right. One who just won a Grand Tour on his team. All right. He has an emerging GC superstar in Matteo Jorgensen. All right. Not to mention, the guy we talked about in the last segment, Wout van Aert, who has helped Vingegaard win a Tour de France before, especially in these high mountain stages, and being there and being able to do extra work. Not to mention Victor Campenaerts, all right, Eduardo Affini, all right, both great riders in and of their own. All right, these are teams that are built to win, both of them. All right, Pogačar's got Wellens, he's got Almeida, he's got
Yates. It's Almeida, Yates. The way I look at it, it's Almeida, Yates, and Wellens for Pogačar, and it's Kuss, Yates, and Jorgensen and Van Aert for Jonas. And if you distill it down, it's basically Kuss and Yates, and it's Almeida and Yates when you're talking about up at the top of the mountain, I mean, I said last week that the image that we're going to see over and over again is going to be Pogačar, Vingegaard, and Almeida at the end of these races.
I agree.
Um,
I agree.
the question is Sepp Kuss strong enough to be there when Almeida is still there? Is Adam Yates, is Simon Yates strong enough to still be there when Almeida's still there? Now that's a pretty good question.
That is a
Simon Yates,
key too.
Simon Yates just won the Giro. He just won a 3-week Grand Tour stage race. We're pumping up Joao Almeida based off of the back of some very strong performances in 1-week stage races. So that's a big X factor.
Look, the bottom line is this: for Jonas Vingegaard to beat Pogačar, he has to be delivered to the mountaintops where he has everything in the tank. All right. They need to, if they can isolate Pogačar to where he does not have a lot of help getting into those points, that's going to be the key. What Visma needs to do is isolate Pogačar from his teammates. All right, so that when it gets really hard, and we know that this Tour de France is going to be hard, they have built this thing to. They are trying to Pogačar proof the Tour de France. So, there is, Col de Los is in the mix. Haute de Camp is in the mix. These are big fucking climbs. All right. And, the reality is that these are the two guys that are going to be battling it out. Does that mean to say that we are not going to see, it's sad to say that this is really, to me, the race when you have a Primož Roglic going to be there, you have a Remco Evenepoel going to be there, but I'm sorry, I just don't put these guys. I honestly, to me, I put both of them on the same level as Skelmos. I really do. I think that
Primož and Remco?
Remco, Skelmos, and Roglic, to me, those three guys have equal chances to win this race. As far as
What about Almeida? Do you put Almeida? Do you put Almeida in with those guys?
I would put Almeida ahead of those guys, probably. I'd put Yates ahead of those guys.
So basically, what we're saying is we're going to be wrapped up in a competition. We're going to be wrapped up in the fight for the win, and we're going to be wrapped up in the fight for the podium.
With both those teams, yeah. I feel like
I would agree that any one of like 5 guys could end up on the podium in third place in this race.
I think from those 2 teams, you could easily say that you will have 5 or 6 riders in your top 10 in the GC come from those teams. I think you could put money on that, and it'd probably be pretty good odds.
I'd say Remco is a lock for top 5. I would say Almeida is a lock for top 5. And then on the outskirts, you've got Skelmos, you've got
Yates. I think Yates is top 10, no doubt.
Both Yateses. God, man, it's going to be interesting. So what is there any path to a win for Primož Roglic in this race?
Staying upright and staying in contention. I mean, he has to hang with these guys. I mean, in all the spots that we've seen recently, Primož has not been able to hang with those guys. All right. Now, is he capable? 100%. Would I love to see it? Absolutely. All right. I would love to, but we, again, we saw it a year ago. It wasn't it, he will have to be
very scrappy. He does not have a strong team around him, at least for GC stuff, because he's got Florian Lipwitz, who's very strong right now. Lipwitz just got 3rd in the Dauphiné, I believe. And Vlasov, but the rest of the team is a sprinting team. You got Jordi Meus, you got Danny Van Poppel, Pithy, Moscon, and Mick Van Dijk. That's a sprint train right there. So it's almost as if this team is kind of like, they sought out Primož as like a potential Grand Tour winner, and he did bring home a single Grand Tour win. No,
Yeah, Vuelta.
yeah, he got the but he was still in Visma the Giro the year before, right?
Yes, that was with
Right.
Jumbo.
It was his Giro, and then Jonas got the Tour, and then
And
Sepp
Sepp
got
got
the
the Vuelta, and then
right,
he
right,
won the
right.
Vuelta
So
the next year with Bora.
so he got one Grand Tour so far for Red Bull, the Vuelta
Which,
last year.
I mean, if you're Red Bull, it's still a win of a signing for them. They got a Grand Tour out of it. All right,
Yeah,
but the
but it looks
reality
like
the
it looks like
reality
they've
in
already moved on
in
past
my
him. Like they're
opinion,
not.
Lipowitz is you put your if you're going to put your eggs in a basket with that team, put your eggs in the Florian Lipowitz basket because guess what? I think that overall you're going to have a much better shot in the future with a win from him. And it's like I could easily see him out riding Primos. I mean, again, if Primos is on form and he's the Primos of old and he's hanging with those guys in all the big spots and he's not getting dropped, he could win. I mean, he could absolutely win. It'd be amazing. I would love to see. It would be crazy to me if somehow, we've all predetermined that it's going to be Vingegaard or Pogacar, and most likely Pogacar, and somehow Primoz Roglic, wins the Tour de France. Like, what a
Hey, I mean,
fucking story that would be.
one of those guys could crash out, and the other one could just not do well. Like, I mean, there's anything could happen. It's a 3 week
Yeah.
stage race. That's why I wouldn't be putting so quick to put Florian Lipwitz ahead of Primoz Roglic. I mean, yeah, Florian Lipwitz got third place in a big 1 week stage race. That doesn't mean I'm ready to put all my eggs in that basket versus Primoz Roglic, a guy who has won 5 Grand Tours. Um,
I'm just saying, dude.
so
Lipwitz's form is has been
yeah,
very very
it's
good.
great, but I mean, his form is the kind of perfect form to be the number one domestique for his GC rider in a Grand Tour. I mean, I think it might be kind of cool to see Roglic, Lipowitz, and Vlav just like kind of getting together and just being like trying to be like a three-man wrecking crew, like just being the scrappy underdogs. Nobody's paying much attention to them, and they're just gonna go out there day in, day out and make sure they're keeping their guy, there or thereabouts, keeping him in the top, top 4 or 5 GC guys, always, always right there finishing with that last group or whatever, and let the chips fall where they may, you
Now,
know.
so you see Primos's setup almost like Remco's setup, where it's essentially they're orphans versus two juggernauts.
Well, except that our Remco's team, when we just looked at it, it looked like it was pretty even. Like half the team is a mountain team, half the team is a sprint team. Here, you got 3 guys on the mountain side, and you got 5 guys on the sprint side.
All right.
So, and it looks
So
like,
Primos
especially,
has the hardest
especially
road to toe out of those guys that are Grand Tour winners up front.
the
Would you
GC
put?
contenders. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. All right. Would you put Almeida and or uh, Yates? All right. Simon Yates ahead of Primus Roglic right now.
I'd put him even
Okay. All right.
for Tour de France. I'd put him even.
Okay.
So, and
Primos needs Primos
that's
needs to stay also needs to stay upright and stay healthy. You know what I mean?
but this is yeah, of course. This is the other thing though. I'm telling you, I think it is entirely possible that UAE, they've employed some audacious tactics and approaches here in the past year. They could go into this thing saying like we can tell that Tade is in such good form right now that we know he's gonna we know it. It's like not like a hubris type situation. It's just like we know what this guy's capable of and no one's beating him right. Um so we're we're gonna shift our focus to making sure that Almeida gets at least third in this thing. We think we could get 2 podium spots out of it, and we want to approach that as a goal for our team. 2 podium spots. I think that's feasible.
I do. I do too. I think it's entirely possible. I think Joao Almeida is one of the best riders in the Pro Peloton. I mean, period.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It, it, I my biggest hope for this part of the race is this: that it's more interesting than it was last year.
I think there's almost no way that it won't be, but we'll find out.
Ha, that's the key. That is the key. On that note, we'll be right back to take a yellow jersey clad ride in the broom wagon. Welcome back. We're about to take another ride in the broom wagon. Matt, what do you got for us this week?
All right, I'm making a little recommend. Whiskey sours. As many of you probably know, my day job is a bartender. I'm into cocktails, and my kids were watching some YouTube show that I'm sure was totally inappropriate for them to be watching. And the characters were talking about cosmopolitans and whiskey sours, and they were talking about the egg whites in the whiskey sours, and I was like, oh, okay. And they started asking me about it. What's up with the egg whites in the whiskey sours, Daddy? And I said, well, that's a good question, and we'll find out tomorrow night after dinner. So the next night after dinner, I made whiskey sours for the wife and I. And my wife Mandy loves a whiskey sour with egg white. Have you ever had a whiskey sour with an egg white?
I guess I haven't. I guess I'm honestly, as much whiskey as I've consumed in my life, I don't know that I've ever had a whiskey sour. Would you tell me the composition of a whiskey sour?
I sure will. So whiskey sour is built on a ratio for ingredients that's sort of referred to as the daiquiri ratio, and it's basically 2 parts spirit, 1 part sugar, 1 part citrus. All right, that's your daiquiri ratio. And so to make a whiskey sour, it's going to be 2 parts whiskey, 1 part lemon juice, 1 part simple syrup. That's your basic whiskey sour. And the reason why I want to endorse this for our listeners is this is just one of the absolute easiest possible things you could make at home. You got to make sure you got lemons. Um, I would hope to think that all of our listeners have got a bag of sugar hanging around the house. Um, to make simple syrup, it couldn't be easier. It's equal parts sugar and water. Whisk them together. Turn the hot water on your kitchen sink to as hot as it'll go. Let it run for 15 seconds till it's nice and hot, and then just take your half a cup mixing cup and scoop out a half a cup of sugar and put it in a little bowl, and then just use that same mixing cup to get yourself a half a cup of the hottest water that'll come out of your tap. Dump it on top of the sugar and just whisk it until it's all liquid. You got simple syrup. I mean, it could not be easier. Put it in an old bottle. I'm sure you got a bottle hanging around the house. I always have simple syrup on hand at the house. And then, so it's going to be equal parts simple syrup and lemon juice. Most people have got a way to squeeze juice out of a lemon. Heck, cut it in half and squeeze it with your hand if you have to. And measure out equal parts sugar, simple syrup, and lemon juice, and then double that amount of for the whiskey, and you've got a whiskey sour. Now, what I did with my daughters the other night is, since I was making 2 of them, I said, "Girls, I'm going to show you what the difference is between a whiskey sour with and without the egg white." And so they're good little bakers. They know how to do egg whites and stuff like that. They know how to separate eggs and all. So I didn't have to explain to them the concept of an egg white, but basically separate out an egg white. In whatever way you like to do the best. I'm a shell to shell kind of a guy, but some people like to just do it right there in their hands. Make sure you got something to catch the egg white with, because you want to get rid of the yolk and keep the white, and you want to keep as much of that yellow yolk part out of it as possible. A nice pure egg white is the way to go. And then basically for one whiskey sour, you're going to put in 1 egg white. Very simple ratio there.
I'm a hand guy. I just do this.
Yeah, I can do it. I can do it in the hand too. Um, and then what you want to do is you want to put it in your cocktail shaker, and give it a dry shake first. So don't add ice to the shaker at first. You want to give it a dry shake. Um, with certain ingredients, and especially when you're trying to build a lot of foam in certain cocktails, I'll call your attention to a drink, the Ramos Gin Fizz, which has an incredible column of foam that comes out of this drink. But when you're trying to build foam in a drink, starting with a dry shake will help really kickstart that emulsification process a little bit better. So with a whiskey sour with an egg white, you want to start with like a nice dry shake, maybe like 5, 6, 7 seconds of dry shaking. Then crack your
So
shaker open.
just the egg white in the shaker, that's it.
No, no, all the ingredients: the egg white, the
Oh, okay.
whiskey, the lemon juice, the simple syrup, and then dry shake it. And then, dry shake it for 7, 8 seconds, and then add ice to the shaker, and then give it a real hard, vigorous shake, good 10 seconds at least. 10, 12 seconds, something like that. But when you're shaking, one thing you need to know is like you want to shake things really hard. You want the ice to be ricocheting off of either end of that shaker. Bam, 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 bam. You're not like you're not just like kind of stirring it by shaking. You're really shaking it. You want to agitate those ingredients because when you shake a cocktail, you're trying to emulsify emulsifiable ingredients. And in the case of the whiskey sour, not only is the lemon juice emulsifiable, it will benefit from the intrusion of air and the agitation of air. Um, the egg white is really emulsifiable. So when you make these two cocktails side by side, and try this at home too. This is a fun little experiment. Now, if you get I've got 2 cocktail shakers, so I was able to do them simultaneously and pour them at the same time, so you really get a side-by-side look when both cocktails are at their peak freshness straight out of the shaker. Um, a a whiskey sour with egg white will have a layer of very, like, thick white foam on top of it. Like, I serve it in a little coupe glass, and it's got a good like quarter inch of white foam on top of it. That white foam is there because of the egg white, but it tastes like a whiskey sour. Like every little sip of that white foam tastes like whiskey sour, and the mouth feel that you get from that, the body of this drink is just heavenly. It's really like a sublime experience to have a little egg white in that whiskey sour. Um, it's a very good drink without the egg white as well, and if you give it a nice, good, robust shake, you can really develop a lot of body just with citrus and simple syrup and whiskey. Um, so give it a good hard shake, and it's perfectly acceptable and delicious all on its own. But a whiskey sour with an egg white in it is truly a sublime experience. So that is my broom wagon recommendation. Make yourself a whiskey sour, 2 part spirit, 1 part simple, 1 part citrus.
Cool. I'm down. I will. I outside of maybe lemons, I probably have everything in the house right now.
Mhm.
My broom wagon topic is my wife and I started watching the new Marvel series Ironheart, which is based on the character Riri Williams, who is a genius African American girl. And the show kind of like I don't really read into anything anymore. I just kind of tackle things as much as I can. I really try to avoid reviews as much as I can because I just think that they're mostly garbage anymore, especially online. I think that people just, I think half the people want to shit on things just to shit on things, and I think that the other half of people, are overly, overly praising to every possible thing. So I really try to just avoid, reviews at all costs and just, absorb things as they are. The one thing that I had heard is that people were not liking it. And my wife and I watched. So it's an odd drop for Disney Plus, but I kind of dig what they're doing right now. They're dropping. It's only 6 episodes. They're dropping three. They dropped three last week. They dropped three today. So they'll all be out. I really enjoyed it, man. Like, I this is the second time recently where like I feel, this very homogenized version of art in the Marvel Disney machine has turned out something that is very interesting because it's an entire cast essentially of people of color, and I think it is a really, really great thing that, they're out in conscientiously developing things, that show the diversity in the world. And it's very true to the source material in that sense too. But I enjoyed the shit out of it. You know what I mean? It's I'm not saying it's the best thing that they've ever done, and but it's certainly not the worst. And it's another time where I feel like, Disney and Marvel have tackled, you know, uh, genre, defying things where they're not afraid to do a thing, and I commend them for it, and I enjoy it. And if you're into Marvel stuff, I recommend that you give it a watch. 6 episodes is hardly a large commitment.
I will say, I completely understand why you try to eschew the voices of critics um, or reviews before going into stuff or just in general. Um, I would like to say though that like I I listen to several film related podcasts. I don't watch a lot of TV, but I listen to several film related podcasts. And these are critics that I have developed a relationship with, uh, meta social as it is. Um, their opinions I trust. I know, and also because I listen to not just one movie podcast, but I listen to 3 or 4 different movie podcasts, it's very likely that most of the new movies that come out that I'm considering seeing, I have already heard 3 or 4 or 5 different critics weighing in on this particular film, and so I have said for a number of years now that, like, I don't watch bad movies because I know my critics, I know my critics' tastes and the things that they like and they don't like, and I can get a sense of just about every big movie that comes out, like whether it's going to be good or not. There's just certain movies that come out, and if every one of my critics hates it and says it's trash, like I'm not going to bother with it because I know it's going to suck. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Whereas if they're all
I
just like over the moon about something, I know it's going to be great, and sure enough, I go to the movie and it's freaking great, and it's very, very rare that I find an exception to this rule. It happens. There's certain films that bubble through that I'm just like, well, all my critics kind of hated that, but I kind of loved it. Um, but it doesn't happen very often. So,
see,
so
but
I
I see.
can't throw critics completely out.
I feel like I feel like it gives me an sometimes I just think it ruins the experience for me in a way. Whereas I think there's something to be said, and this does not 100% apply. But there's a part of me that really believes that no matter what, all right, somebody took time to make that thing, and you know there is something to be said about the fact that somebody made something where there was nothing before, and it's art to everybody in some way or some form. And I feel like giving more things a chance has led me to things, because there are things that I absolutely love that are universally panned by critics. There are things that I love that are universally lauded by critics, but there are some things that I feel like I would have missed had I not had I not if I hadn't just taken something on face value off of a synopsis, off of like, oh yeah, this looks interesting, and I just turn it on and watch it. And I think there's a lot of things out there that are really, really good that you'll miss, you know, by taking you know that approach. That's not to say that you're not going to see a million great things, because like you said, you don't watch bad movies, but sometimes there are bad movies that are really good. Now, sometimes a bad movie is just a bad movie, like Madam Web. It's just a bad movie. It was a disaster from end to end, because the studios put their hand too many hands in the sauce, or whatever dumb analogy you want. Sometimes a movie is just bad, but there are some movies that people think are bad that are actually pretty damn good. So it just depends. It depends. So take it what you will. You have two differing sides of the coin. So if you're out here and you're listening to us tonight, understand, the if you can cultivate a group of reviewers that you really do trust, you probably can find some really great stuff. But sometimes just watching something and seeing if you like it is also a pretty cool thing too. On that note, that's all for this week. Join us next week for a comprehensive review of Week 1 of the Men's Tour de France and a full recap of the Women's Giro d'Italia. Until then, for my brother Matt, I'm Justin Harper. Thanks for listening. We hope you'll join us again soon on another ride beyond the slipstream. Allez!
Beyond the Slipstream is a production of Harperama. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Please like and subscribe, smash that button, leave a 5-star review, and most importantly, tell all your friends about us. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time. Allez!